Hey guys, how you doing? This is Luca here at Studio DMI with my Mix Lab. Today we're gonna dive into the Pro Q by FabFilter, which is kind of like our plugin of choice for surgery EQ, dynamic EQ. It's an extremely popular plugin. Then we might find some function that digging a little deeper on the plugin can be very useful to use. So just follow me in. Pro Q3. Well, I have to say that through the years, from the original Pro Q3 became kind of like a standard, kind of go-to EQ plugin. Very useful. I love using on linear phase mode. So let's talk about a little bit about this plugin. I've tried to be kind of like straight to the point on what really mattered for me. As an example, we're going to use like a stereo file, but imagine this can be applied on any type of format, like mono, vocal, drums, everything. It's just more about the functionality of the plugin. Again, like the Pro L, great, you can do full screen. It's pretty amazing. Look at that. Usually, I find myself working on large view mode. They give me like enough space to kind of like put other plugin around and have a little bit of space. Let's play some music, and then let's talk about the main functionality of this EQ.
I'm your pusher man. I'm your pusher man. I'm your pusher man. I'm your pusher man.
All right, so the Pro Q has a fantastic looking analyzer, number one. What they did on top of that, they also add a keyboard. They allow us to really quick understand notes. And one of the main things, actually one of the biggest improvement on the V3, so the Pro Q3, on the low cut, we can go brick wall. And the brick wall, not very useful for mastering, for example, but great for kick drums. Essentially, you can recreate the envelope of the kick. One thing I like to do, let's throw any piece of audio just to understand. Let's say that this is a kick drum, just to give an example. What I like to do sometimes, especially on drums or kick drum, so I find the note of the kick. Okay, so this is an A, right? See that? And then I do a cut. So let's say, you can also pick here. Okay, actually it's a G. Okay, so G. And then, let's say in case of a kick drum. Then I do a bump, a dynamic bump, to recreate the envelope of the kick essentially. There you go. And in case of envelope, I like to use even like a 30 dB analyzer, so I have more range. There you go. And I can get even more creative in this case. I can do a brick wall on the top. Again, we're talking about just like purely reshaping drums. In this case, kick drum. There we go. That's a good kind of almost sound design, borderline sound design use. So the dynamic is very cool, and I also do, let's say, in case of loops or in case of kick drum, I like to do the same on the top, not only on the bottom. So let's do that. I can even do like a nice shelf. Very cool, right? So, great sound design tools you can use, which is, if you go back on a regular EQ, parametric EQ, there's something that was impossible to even think to do something like this in the past. All right, that's one. In this case, I stay on natural phase or zero latency. Again, it's purely almost sound design, it's fine. Let's go in a more mastering type of application, go linear phase mode, and let's go on a part that's more harmonics, more going on. Okay, so the straight line for me, it's kind of like the line that I place visually and allow me to see where I'm pushing over the line. And it's very useful for that. All right, so let's get out of here for a sec. First, very useful to clean up the bottom, and always stay in linear phase. Medium works fine for that. And I find to clean up the bottom end, let's say 20, which is another cool thing, is you can type. So like 20 hertz, cut 12 dB. Then, because you're losing a little bit of energy, you have a few options. When you find the right part, say, I want to do more. I want to do like 40 hertz. Now I want to get a little bit more sustain on the kick and bass. Again, on mastering, I'll do that. So true, I'm cleaning and cutting the bottom, but I'm reshaping the kick and bass. Again, this takes me to another interesting function equal to the Pro L, the bypass from the plugin. This means latency free. Right, very cool. Same on the top. Very nice to give like static EQ, curve, air. You're not changing the phase response. So when you're staying in linear phase mode, every curve that you're doing, you're not having like a phase shifting that's happening when you are on zero latency. It's very important. And with any DAW, pretty much, I think beside FL Studio, we are not going to have problems with latency anyways. So you can stay in linear phase mode. We'll take a little bit more CPU, and that's all. Back to the function, when I'm on mastering, I like to go back to 6 dB. That way I see more, almost like a zoom in on what I'm doing. Let's take a normal scenario for me. It's, again, deal with the bottom, the top, and then find ringing point. And then what I do, I click on headphones, and then with the right click, I can change the cue. So let's say I want to find some ringing point. There we go, that's one right there. Another right there. In this other video on my mix lab when I'm talking about this, but I just want to explain a little bit the flow. So I'll do that, and then there we go. Now, when I find those points, I grab those points. Oh, do that. What's going on, Pro Q? There we go. Okay, so I grab those points, and I have now full control. Now, why I want to do that? I want to be able to control, make sure what I'm cutting is actually what I was listening before. So, yes. Cool thing is I can also change the cue together. And this also means I can make dynamic, cut those ringing points in a dynamic way together. All right? Don't worry when you see a lot of, like this case, cuts. We're still looking on 6 dB full range. So right now we're doing like a little less than 2 dB, so it's not much. That's the way to combine dynamic EQ and static EQ. Now, these cases where tracks, they need to control the side information. Great about the Pro Q is the fact that I can say create another one and then go in on stereo placement and choose if I want to go left and right, stereo, mid, or side. Let's say I want to clean the side a little bit. Now I'm soloing just the side. See, there's some side on the low end I don't like. And then I can just clean that. I can also shave the bottom on the side. When you click side one time, every other step is going to be side only. Okay? And same little bit on the top. I can change again with the mouse, the wheel. I can change the shape. So now I'm cleaning the side. I'm making some I'm cutting some ringing, I'm shaving the bottom, the top. Now I want to maybe take with the mid only some instrument, for example, snare, kick drum, bass. So I can do that. There we go. Follow the kick and bass. All right, that's 3 dB on the kick and bass. So working just on mid, everything's happening in the middle will be affected by this curve. So kick, bass, snare, no reverb, no any other instrument, no panning. So everything's panned left and right. It's going to be affected. So again, now we're affecting the mid, we're affecting the side, we're dynamically taking ringing, we are shaving the top and the bottom. That's fantastic. So that's a little bit about like the actual EQ. Now let's look something that you might don't know, which is sidechain and analyzer. So the Pro Q has something very special. You can assign a sidechain. In this case, let's say I have a reference track, and I'm taking my reference track and I input on the sidechain. Now, what you see in the middle, the yellow, we actually looking the reference track inside of our current track. And what you see, the red line, it's the actual reference track. So now we're able to see a track that we like, let's say, which is this track. And we're able to see dynamically how it works, the Q curve of the reference track. So let's go. Let's say we don't care to listen, but we are interested to see how the track, kind of the EQ curve and the EQ behavior versus this track. We can do it this way, looking here, with the option to do a Q match. What a Q match is. So you can literally take this, kind of like copy the spectrum analyzer of the reference track, so how the track looks like on the spectrum, and apply to your own track. And now you can also save the curve. So that's pretty crazy, right? So again, we are taking external sidechain. Let's record it. There you go. And we can apply. Now, when you do that, sometimes it is too extreme, so you can also smooth the EQ curve and kind of like find something in the middle. So try that. And then can be really good for vocal EQing. For full stereo information, might be too aggressive, but for vocal EQing, for kick drums, it's very, very effective. You should try that. Well, I think I covered pretty much the most useful function for me. I recommend to think when you work with the Pro Q3, if you're on mastering, stay a low value like 3 dB or 6 dB. When you go into mixing mode, go for 12 or 30. If you work on mono sound without using parallel, you can stay on zero latency natural phase. If you are on mastering, please use linear phase mode. Do some homework and find out why linear phase mode is very important. I can talk for days, but you can do that. Last things before I go, you have one functionality that a lot of people don't use much. When you find the Q curve that you love, let's say it's this, but you want to scale down the Q curve, you have 100%, you can use to 0%, which is take away everything, or even 200%. You can, and this also can be automated. So imagine if you go build into drop, you have like take away the EQ and then bring it back. That's a good opportunity. You can do. So let's see if it makes sense. Let's do just a test what I'm talking about. And let's go 100% again. So it's a trick that I use a lot when I want to take away energy away and give it back. So, all right. So EQ on. Instead of do EQ off, we just curve everything back to flat and then open up again. And maybe actually do a little jump. So let's do that. And that's going to be a cool effect. So for example, so let's do that.
Have some weed, you know me, I'm your daddy, I'm that nigga in the alley, I'm your doctor, when in need, want some coke, have some weed, you know me, I'm your friend, your main boy, thick and thin, I'm your pusher man, I'm your pusher man.
How cool is that? Imagine if we could do like micro little automation on everything, right? So, all right, guys, this was a little bit about the Pro Q3, one of our favorite EQ, kind of like our go-to EQ in the box. Try, go deeper. There's more you can learn from this EQ. All right, Luca, here at Studio DMI with my Mix Lab.